evening. I'm Dave Morris with News OK. Coming up in today's editions of The Play, new developments in a high-profile gambling case. And a former county prosecutor is disciplined for misconduct. But we begin tonight's segment with a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. The High Court ruled against a Cherokee father in Oklahoma who said a federal law meant to keep Indian families intact gave him the right to raise a daughter who had been put up for adoption at birth. In a 5-4 decision, the justices ruled the law doesn't automatically give custody to the Cherokee father in Oklahoma. As the Oklahoman's Chris Castile explained during an interview earlier this afternoon, the justice's decision hinged on one portion of the federal law.
One of the phrases in this law, one of the specific provisions in this law about taking a child out of an Indian family's custody is the phrase continued custody. You know, whether it would endanger the child or what the merits of continued custody with this Indian family. So what the Supreme Court ruled today was that the father actually never had custody when the adoption proceedings began. He had relinquished his rights to the child. The birth mother had sought this adoptive couple, and they were raising the child from birth. So the father, when he interjected himself into this adoption proceeding, had never had custody. So what the majority of the justices said today was that this federal law, meant to keep Indian families intact, did not apply here because there was no continued custody since the father had never had physical or legal custody of the child.
That was an interview with our Chris Castile in Washington via Skype earlier today. You can read more about the case in Wednesday's Oklahoman and online at newsok.com, as well as watch the full interview with our man in Washington, Chris Castile. All right, here with more on the other stories I mentioned earlier that will be receiving play in tomorrow's paper. Assistant Local Editor Nick Tragakis, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. We had an update today on the Teddy Mitchell case. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a case that a lot of people know about. Obviously, Teddy Mitchell's wife, Julie Mitchell, was killed in their North Oklahoma City home several years ago. To this day, there have not been any charges filed in Julie Mitchell's killing, but now Teddy Mitchell has been charged with gambling charges along with his son. We found out today that Teddy Mitchell has reached an agreement with prosecutors to go ahead and plead guilty to the gambling charges. That's going to happen in July. The duration of his sentence will be revealed down the road at sentencing, and our investigative reporter Nolan Clay is working on that story.
And it's a story Nolan has been working on since it actually happened a few years ago. Plenty of archive coverage on this can be found online at newsok.com. One other story I mentioned, the state Supreme Court has suspended a former county prosecutor for misconduct in death row cases. And what can you tell us about this story?
This is another Nolan Clay story. We've got him busy working hard on his investigative pieces today. But this is a Oklahoma County assistant district attorney. His name is Brad Miller. And in a 1993 case, it came about that he had undertaken some probably what you would not call the best practices for trying a criminal case. It was a drive-by shooting, and the state Supreme Court has ruled that he may have withheld some evidence from defense attorneys, and he may have mistreated some witnesses as well. What the state Supreme Court ruled today was that he would be suspended for 180 days. So essentially, Miller will have to go about 6 months now without being able to practice law.
Wow, another story by our Nolan Clay. You've been keeping him busy today.
That's right.
He's a hard-working man. Nick, thanks for your time today.
Sure.
All right, these stories and plenty more can be found in the upcoming editions of the Oklahoman and online at newsok.com. Have a great night, everybody.